my presentation today, I will share with you some important ideas, big ideas that I have been thinking about for many, many years. And hopefully today I'll be able to share with you some of the big ideas that I think are important for us to actually pay more attention in the classroom. And perhaps also at the same time, reduce the kind of activities, things that may not be very useful for your students. But before I do that, let me just very briefly mention my university. This is my university. It's a very good university called Nanyang Technological University. If you're from Indonesia and if you are planning to study again, by applying for a scholarship, the Indonesian government scholarship, for example, the university is one of the approved universities, LPDP and also BPI, Beasiswa Pendidikan Indonesia. I belong to the School of Education within the university, and the name of the School of Education is the National Institute of Education, and I belong to the English Language and Literature Division, and we offer a wide range of courses, and I'm hoping that some of you will be interested and come to NIE, to my university, to do your master's or to do your doctoral programs. Okay, let me get started. Yeah. I'm going to show you just two images here. The first one is an image that shows you that ELT, English language teaching, in the past looked like this. People had different ideas. People had different proposals about what we should be doing in the classroom. Yeah, there's so many ideas out there. And sometimes many of these ideas sort of, clash with each other. So we are left with some confusion about which ones are likely to work and which ones are likely not to work very well. But today, if you ask me today, I think there is a tendency, there's a converging trend, if you like, that specialist English language professionals out there tend to agree as to what is important and what is not important in English language teaching. Importance in the sense that if you want to help your students to become good speakers, good writers, good listeners, and good readers, then there are things that you have to do. And these are the things that I want to be sharing with you. Yeah. And the things that I'll be sharing with you are pretty much, uncontroversial. So I don't think people will disagree about what I will be sharing with you, because these are really big ideas that have been shown to be very useful, have been investigated by a lot of people, and have been shown to be to have a very important impact on English language learning or English language teaching. Let me just share with you first some of the things that were the focus of debates and arguments in the past. For example, in the past, we were like so concerned with this one big question: was there a best method? Is there anything that we can call the best method? We now know that there is none. Yeah, there's no best method, actually. The best method is one that the teacher, uses based on his or her experiences and pedagogical knowledge in order to address the needs of the students. So that would be one best method that we can think about. Unlike in the past, people were discussing about, is communicative language teaching the way to go? Is task-based language teaching the way to go? Is genre-based language teaching the way to go? I don't think we should be asking that question today. Yeah. The most important question for a teacher is to, find what you think works best in your unique classroom situations, whether you're working with young children, with teenagers, or with adults. So I'm looking for somebody who is well-informed, somebody who knows what to do and what not to do based on their previous education and also based on their experiences of working with their students. The second idea that has also been the focus of debate in the past was this idea whether as a teacher, as an English teacher, should you be using English only, a monolingual context, or can you switch back and forth between using English and using other languages that the students can relate to in the classroom? And in the process, whether or not you will be allowing your students to use English or sometimes to not use English in the classroom. The debate is over now. I don't think we are continuing to have a discussion about which one is good for your students. There are times when you want to use more English, and there are times when you want to switch back and forth, depending on the needs of the students, whether you want to switch to Bahasa Indonesia, whether you want to switch to Cambodian language when you are teaching in the classroom. Yeah. So I think the problem is more or less solved today. Again, there's another point that was hotly debated in the past. Should we focus more on accuracy, correctness over fluency, or is it the other way around? Yeah. Again, I think we now understand better that both are important, but both are needed at different stages of development in our students. For example, when you're dealing with younger kids, for example, I don't think you should pay too much attention at the early stage on accuracy. In other words, you do not need to emphasize absolute correctness. And when students make mistakes, for example, leave it alone. I don't think that would be a good time for you to make a lot of corrections when your students are still at the early stage of learning. Yeah, I think you should focus more on fluency, allowing students to experience how language is learned and how language is used without too much intervention from the teachers in terms of their correctness, in terms of grammar, in terms of pronunciation, and all that. Maybe at the later stage, then yes, a little bit more focused attention on correctness will be warranted. Another important point that was, again, the focus of big debate in the past is this: native speakers and non-native speakers. Ibu Eka, who is a better teacher, native speakers or non-native speakers? Ajahn Siripan. It was a big discussion. There was a big discussion in the past whether we should, use native speaking English method of teaching, whether we should hire native English speakers, whether native English speakers are better, more professional than non-native speakers of English. Quick answer, please. Yes or no?
Not necessary to have the native speaker.
I like that. Yes, I think the thinking today, the agreement today is it doesn't matter whether you employ a native speakers or a non-native speakers, as long as both are professionally prepared, as long as both are professionally qualified, then we welcome both. Yeah. If you have the resources to hire a native speaker, by all means do it. Yeah. The key thing to remember is whether or not the native speakers or the non-native speakers are equally qualified to teach English in the northern part of Thailand, for example, or the southern part of Cambodia, or in any other places in the world. Yeah. Another important distinction that I want to explain a bit more later is this distinction between explicit teaching. This is something that we all enjoy doing. We prepare a lesson, we select one or two language points, and then we spend one whole hour explaining systematically that particular language points, maybe a sentence structure, maybe the tenses, maybe different types of clauses and things like that. Yeah, and make that the focus of our teaching. So that is the kind of explicit teaching that I'm talking about. Or is it implicit teaching, implicit learning that you want to focus more on? I think Pak Budi's presentation actually is targeting more on the second one, implicit learning. Yeah. So which one is it, explicit or implicit? I think the agreement again today is we need to pay attention to both, but maybe more towards implicit rather than explicit learning. So let me say that again very carefully. Maybe more towards implicit than explicit. So project-based learning, for example, is a great example of, a context of learning where the students can pick up incidentally, implicitly, a lot of language points that appear during the preparation of the project, or maybe at the later stage when the students are about ready to present their project to to the class. Yeah. So these are 5 ideas that I have seen being the focus of a lot of discussion, a lot of debate, but I think the dust has sort of settled today. And I think we are all in agreement that we don't need to continue to, to have a big debate on this issue. Ladies and gentlemen, so what I want to share with you are 8 ideas, 8 big ideas that will have to be there. Whether you teach young children, whether you teach, teenagers, whether you teach older, students, whether you use technology or whether you don't use technology, whether you are teaching at the university level, I think the 8 ideas that I'm going to share with you will have to be considered, will have to be included, incorporated in the design of your teaching. And these 8 ideas are summarized using one word, so that after the session is over, you will remember this one word. And this one word is flamingos. Flamingos, yeah? So each letter of the word will form a principle, an idea that I will be sharing with you. Yeah. So please listen very carefully. You don't need to take notes. At the end of the session, I will give you my slides. Yeah. Okay. My job is to listen very carefully, and at the end of my presentation, I'm going to give you a quiz and see if you remember what flamingos stand for. Yeah, Ibu Diani Nurhayati, I'm going to give you a quiz at the end of the session today. Let's begin with the first letter. What is the first letter?
F.
What is the first letter?
F.
F. Yes.
It's F.
Yes. Yes. I'm going to share with you the F word. The F word is not a bad word, huh? The F word is this. F stands for fluency. Please remember that. F stands for fluency. And fluency is super, super important in any kind of learning, in any kind of skill learning, including language learning. Yeah. Whether you learn pronunciation, you need to do it in a way that is fluent. Whether you need to develop fluency in reading. Whether you learn how to speak, you also need to develop fluency in reading, in listening, in speaking, and in writing. Well, of course, you all know that fluency is important, yeah? The ability to do things quickly and easily. That is what fluency is all about, yeah? When you read and you're able to do it quickly and smoothly and easily, that is fluency. When you speak, you also need to help your students to develop fluency so that they can speak with fluency, in a way that is smooth, in a way that is, sort of easy, and in a way that is a little bit fast than what we usually see happening in our students. Yeah, I think we all know that fluency is important. But if you think about this, you will agree with this gentleman. He's a big scholar in our field. The name is Paul Nation. This is what he says. And I fully agree with his assessment. Number one, fluency is neglected. You are not doing fluency in the classroom. We are not giving students opportunity to develop their ability to do things quickly, smoothly, and easily. We're not doing it. And we should. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Yeah. And that means that we need to do a lot more recycling, allowing the students to say again, to read again what they have read before, to practice doing the kind of speaking that they have done before. That is like recycling, yeah? To give students to be able to use newly acquired words that they learned yesterday, for example. They have to see the words again and again. Now, Paul Nation is saying that there's a lot of misconception about fluency. Yeah, fluency means doing things that you already know what to do, how to do. You are doing it again so that you become better at doing it. Yeah, so knowing how to pronounce a word is just a first step. but knowing how to pronounce that word fluently, quickly, smoothly all the time, I think requires a lot of practice, a lot of fluency practice. Let me share with you. I think this one is telling. Yeah, the person on the left-hand side is a trainee. Is a trainee player. And the man on the right-hand side is the coach. Yeah, look at what the trainee is doing on the left-hand side. Boeka, what is the trainee doing on the left-hand side?
Sending the shuttlecock.
Yes. Just once, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times,
Many
5 times.
times.
Exactly. Yes,
100
hundreds
times.
of time. Yeah. And that is what fluency practice is all about. Yeah. After doing this for 1 whole week or 1 whole month, then the person, the trainee will be able to do it fluently, hitting the shuttlecock quickly, accurately, and also easily as well. And that is what fluency is all about. As Paul Nation says, we are not doing it in the classroom. We should. We should give students a lot of more opportunities to do what they have, to do not something new, but to do what they know how to do. But this time we want to help our students to develop fluency so that they can do it really, really, really well. So the keyword again, something familiar to us is practice, right? I think we all know that practice. Ajahn Siripan, practice makes, please complete my sentence.
Perfect.
Makes
Yes.
perfect.
Yes, practice makes perfect. I think, yes, you will get 2 certificates today. Practice makes perfect, yeah. But it's not any kind of practice, because the kind of practice that we do in the classroom is often not very good. The kind of practice that we do, like grammar exercises, like fill in the blank, for example, that does not make our students perfect, no. Yeah. So later ask me this question, what kind of practice will make perfect? Somebody has pointed out that it has to be perfect practice that makes perfect. I'll share with you later what I mean by that. Yeah. So listening, for example, will have to be done repeatedly. So it's repeated practice in listening, repeated practice in reading, repeated practice in writing, and repeated practice in speaking. And that gets translated to things that you do on a daily basis, setiap hari, every day. Yeah, maybe 5 minutes a day, maybe 10 minutes a day, but you have to do it regularly every day over a period of time. So the first principle in the flamingos principles is fluency. F is for fluency. 1 is done. I hope you get the idea. Fluency is very often neglected, and fluency is an important part of you helping your students to develop competence, proficiency in language use eventually. The second letter in the word flamingos is L. Yeah, and L stands for Lexis. What is Lexis? Can somebody give me another word for Lexis?
Vocab.
Exactly. Thank you. Yes, Zaida Sanxiong. Yes. Lexis is just a fancy word for vocabulary, and vocabulary just means words. Yeah, words, and words. When you learn a new language, you need to accumulate, you need to acquire a lot of words. So that is another principle. Again, Paul Nation and other experts will tell us that vocabulary is often neglected in favor of another language skill known as grammar. Yeah, people tend to focus more on grammar, forgetting very often that vocabulary is probably, my feeling, more important than grammar. Yeah, so let me share my thoughts about lexis, or about vocabulary. Now, these are very short quotes that I've seen, and the quotes are worth remembering, if you ask me. Point number 1 basically is, yes, grammar is important, vocabulary is important, but between the two, vocabulary is more important. Yeah, that's point number 1, essentially. Yeah, if you were to choose between these two, I think you should focus more on vocabulary. But Ibu Santi, for example, probably I'm guessing Ibu Santi, please correct me if I'm wrong. Many teachers in Indonesia, for example, or in Thailand, would spend more time on teaching grammar. When the students are not doing well, teach them more grammar, yeah? When the students can't speak, teach them more grammar. When the students can't write very well, teach them more grammar. I think that is not what research is telling us. Yeah, so today I'm encouraging us, you and me, everyone, that I think we need to pay more attention to vocabulary, not grammar. The reason being, the second part will tell you why. Language ability, kemampuan berbahasa, language ability, the ability to speak, the ability to read, the ability to write, the ability to comprehend, listening, is pretty much determined by how many words you know. That's what the research says. Yeah, let me say this again. Your ability, or your students' ability to speak, to read, to write, and to listen depends largely on the number of words that they know. Again, this is true. This has been established by research. In other words, there's a lot of empirical evidence showing that vocabulary is important and probably more important than grammar, at least at the early stage of language development. I think we should be focusing more on vocabulary. Okay. Now, here is another quote that will help you understand why your students have difficulty reading. If you are preparing for a reading lesson and when you try to implement your lesson in the classroom, you find that, hey, my students don't understand the text. Why is that? This is probably the reason. Because reading comprehension, the ability to comprehend, to understand, depends on detailed knowledge of most of the words in text. So the key word here is most of the words in the text. Can we translate most of the words in the text in percentages? So how many words? What is the percentage of words that the students need to know? Let me begin with 60%. Is that enough?
80%.
80%. Is that enough?
No,
100%.
90% and above.
90% and above. Who said that?
Over
Can I see
90%.
your face, please? Oh, but yes, Romo Nani. Romo Nani is from Timor, from Flores, yeah, but yeah?
Yeah.
From Flores, yeah. Yes, and Romo Nani has a question for Pak Budi later about PB project-based learning. Yes, 90% and above. In fact, experience and also research tell us very clearly that the students need at least 95%. They need to know 95% of the words. More, better, not less. So 95 to 98%. They need to know the words in the text. If they don't know, they're in trouble. Yeah, their comprehension will be not wonderful. So chances are they will not be able to handle the text. Their comprehension will not be, at the expected level of comprehension that we want them to have. Again, this is based on research. Yeah. Research also tells us that there are two types of vocabulary knowledge. There are two types of vocabulary knowledge. Number one is the number of words that you know, the number of words that our students need to know. Yeah, for most purposes, 3,000 words for our students, 4,000 words, 5,000 is better. For you, the teachers, I think you need to know more. But for your students, 3,000 is probably sufficient. I think they can handle most text written in the English language. They can read novels. They can read, authentic, unabridged, pieces of information from the newspaper and all that. Yeah. But the other type of vocabulary knowledge is known as depth. How well you know the words. Yeah. If you know the words very well, I think that is probably more important probably more important than the number of words that you know. And breadth and depth refers to understanding, knowing how a word is used in a variety of contexts and how the meaning of that word can change depending on how you use it, to whom you are using it, to discuss what topics, and things like that. Again, that is what is understood. That is what I have learned from the literature, and that is what I have learned from my own experiences learning the vocabulary of Bahasa Inggris or English words. Yeah. So being able to use creatively, being able to use words creatively, that is another benefit of developing a deep understanding of the varied multiple meanings of the words and how the meaning of the words change depending on the context, depending on the situations that you find yourself in. Let me just give you an example of vocabulary depth. Okay, let's look at just a very simple, very easy word like give. I think all of you know the word give, and your students probably know what the word give means in this sentence, yeah? Give it back to me, I give it back to you. They know this word very well. But is that the only meaning of the word give? The answer, no. No. Look at this. I gave you my word. Yes, it's give, but the meaning is different, isn't it, from the first one? Yeah? Another word. This one. She gave her all to save her child. Again, it's give, but it's not a physical giving, but it refers to something else. She will do whatever it takes. Remember, for the third sentence is always she, never he. Yeah, she gave. That's what mothers do. Yeah, she. Oh, you don't get the joke. Okay. Yeah, it's not he. He doesn't do that. I mean, but she does that all the time. Next one, he gave me the flu. Again, the meaning is the same, but is in this context, the meaning is slightly different, isn't it? I'll give it a shot. And last one, frankly, dear, I don't say it. But in every instance here, the meaning of the word give changes a little bit. And this is what I mean by usage. This is what I mean by deeper knowledge of the words. Here is another one. This one is a very, very creative use of the word give. We're still talking about give, but this is an interesting example of how a twist of the word give can have a very hilarious meaning. I went to the doctor and he gave me 2 months to live. I think you know what it means, yeah? The doctor gave you 2 months to live. What does it mean? Ibu Santi, what does it mean? The doctor gave you 2 months to live.
There's a fivefold change with only 2 months.
Exactly. You're going to die, basically, right? 2 months, that's it. That's the end. So I shot him. And the judge gave me 30 years. So which one is better? It's just a very simple example like this, but with a little bit of creativity, you can create something which is very interesting and hilarious like this. Telling jokes like this, for example, is very, very difficult. You need to know how to use words creatively. And for you to be able to use words creatively, you need to have a deeper understanding of how the word is used in different situations, in different contexts. So the first F is, Ibu Santi, the first F stand for? Please say fluency.
Fluency.
Very good. Santi is very good. The first F is fluency. And the second letter is L. Mbak Lisa Suhayati.
Alexis.
Very good. Yes, I think she is listening very attentively. And the third letter is A. Yeah. Now this one I'm going to explain very quickly because this one is a bit difficult to apply in the teaching context, but I think we need to understand the importance of this principle: amount and intensity. of instruction. Amount simply means how many hours of teaching. Duration means how long. Yeah, so two things. Number of hours of teaching, and the other one refers to how intensive, whether the teaching is done over 6 years or whether the teaching is done over 1 year. And that can make a lot of difference. So this is what research is telling us. Yeah, I hope you can see that very clearly. Usually in most countries in the region, the number of teaching hours in schools from secondary to high school is about 1,000 hours. Yeah, can be a little bit higher, can be a little bit lower, but more or less about 1,000 hours. The question to all of us is this: is that enough? 1,000 hours, is that enough? Mbak Santi, is that enough? Of course, you always want
Depends.
more. Yeah, Ibu Santi is a very smart woman. She would answer questions like this with, it depends. It depends on what?
So many factors, I think, Dr. Willy.
Okay, yes, but on average, other things being equal, in general, on average, would you say that 1,000 hours is enough to learn a language? Any language, English, Mandarin, Chinese, Korean, whatever. Enough or not enough? Please say enough.
I think it's enough, yeah.
Enough, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be my answer too. 1,000 hours is enough. And research tells us clearly that you probably need about 200 hours to help your students to move from one level to the next level. If you're looking at CFR, for example, from A1 to A2, I think you more or less you need 200 hours. Yeah. If you want to move them up higher from A2 to B1, you need a minimal of 200 hours, maybe slightly more. But give and take, 1,000 hours is enough. And plus, if you are able to encourage your students to work autonomously, like Pak Budi said earlier on, yeah, developing interest and autonomy in learning by maybe embracing, task-based language learning or project-based language learning, for example, I think you will be able to get your students to move fairly quickly through the different stages of language learning. But the second consideration is the intensity, the duration, how long. 1,000 hours over 6 years, that is just way too long. There's no intensity. So you spend one whole year teaching them, and the following year you have to repeat the same thing because the students will have forgotten. In year number 3, nothing is left. So the intensity is very important to get your students to be able to remember, to consolidate what they have learned, and then to make use of what they have learned within a shorter period of time. If this is the situation, 1,000 hours, and the intensity is 6 years or longer, I think the best result we can expect is moderate, sometimes very low. Yeah, I think what we need is this. Look at this. This is the same graph, yeah? Number of hours, sama, the same. No change, 1,000 hours. But the intensity, the duration should not be 6 years. Reduce it to 3 years if you can. As I said early on, it has implication. If you want to reduce, the teaching of English from 6 years to 3 years, I think there's a manpower consideration or woman power consideration, different ways of doing things, different curriculum that you need and all that. But what I'm saying is that this is what we know will contribute to the development of your students' English language proficiency. So very briefly, I think we need to think about the quantity, the amount of instruction, but also the intensity of instruction. Again, I would like to refer to Pak Budi's presentation. Intensity of instruction can be added in if you make use of a pedagogy, project-based or problem-based learning, because that kind of project will keep the students busy on a daily basis. Yeah, they will be doing something, they'll be learning something useful on a daily basis, maybe not daily basis, maybe on a weekly basis. So the intensity can be added by making use of project-based learning. Or if you ask Romo Nani Songkares, for example, he will tell you that extensive reading is very good because that adds intensity of learning. That adds the frequency of learning, and that adds the quality of learning as well. So students don't need 6 years, actually. Yeah, 3 years is probably more than enough for the students to develop their ability to speak and to use English. Okay, so that is A. A is for amount and intensity. Next one. Next one, again, something that you know very well, that M is important, and that M stands for motivation. Yeah. Krisvania Putri Wardasari. Are you a teacher?
Yes, I am, sir.
You are a teacher. Are you a good teacher? Please say yes.
I try my best.
Very good answer. You try your best. Yeah. My next question, please respond very slowly and carefully. Are you a motivating English teacher?
I think I am well motivated and well motivated.
You are a motivated teacher, but are you a motivating teacher? In other words, when you teach, your students feel motivated because of your teaching. Yes, I understand that you are motivated person.
I
Yes.
think I both am.
Yes, okay. Let me share with you why I'm asking you that question, because that is apparently one of the most important questions that we need to keep asking ourselves. Am I a motivating teacher? Because what often happens in the classroom is that you see your students, like 50 students or 40 students, the majority are not interested. The majority are not motivated. Yeah. If I were to ask you why your students are not motivated, Ibu Putri, then the answer is, well, what do you expect from my students? They're just not very interested, in learning. But today we're going to learn that when the students are not motivated, it's probably not a student problem. Ibu Chris, not Bu Putri, Chris Fania. It's probably not our students. It's probably you. It's probably me. It's probably the teacher who makes the lesson uninteresting. Yeah, who make the activities, the exercises really, really boring. It's us. It's on us, actually. So with that in mind, let me share with you what experts say about the role of motivation in language education, in language learning. This is a guy who was well known in the area of motivation in English language learning. The name is Zoltan Donye. I think he passed away 2 years ago. And this is the problem. Good people usually pass away when they're still young. I'm also a very good person, but I'm still alive. Thank God for that. Okay, now look at this. Very simple. Yeah, students with sufficient motivation can achieve a working knowledge of a second language. Yeah, working knowledge of the second language is essentially like B1 and B2. That's working knowledge of the language. Yeah. For us, I think we need to get to something higher than B1 or B2. I think C1 or C2. But for our students, if they are able to get to B1, I think you should already be very, very happy. So what he's saying here is actually telling us that if you are able to get your students more motivated, if you're able to sustain their motivation, that's another important word, sustain their motivation. Remember, language learning is not difficult, but it requires quite a bit of effort, and it requires quite a bit of sustained effort. 1 year, 2 years if they can. Yeah, not 1 week. 1 week, not enough. 2 weeks, not enough. 1 month, not enough. So sustained effort for 1 whole year, I think, bam, you will see a lot of improvement in your students' English language skills. So Again, I'm going to repeat this question for everyone. Please turn on your audio and you can say this together, not just Ibu Putri, but it's for everyone. Please say it together. Motivation is important, right? Yes, please say yes.
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 Important.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Look at
Absolute.
that.
Yes.
You know, yes, look at that. The power of technology, the power of microphones. You know, the moment you have your audio on, and everyone says yes. Secondly, I know how to motivate my students. Yes, no?
Yes.
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 Oh,
Yes.
I'm very
Yes, I think
happy.
so.
Yes, I
I
do.
think yes, if you do, then I should stop presenting, because my understanding is that many teachers don't know. They think they know, but they don't. Yeah. They think they know how to motivate their students, but they don't. Actually, they don't know how to motivate their students. Some of us here can be very, very good at motivating our students, that many of us are not very good at it. I did a survey involving 300 teachers from different parts of Asia. And one big, result of the survey is that the majority say that they don't know how to motivate their students. So I'm so happy when I heard that. Yeah, I know how to motivate my students. Let's find out. My students are motivated. Again, I ask this question to a lot of teachers, and the answer usually is about 20%. These are students who are really, really internally, intrinsically, motivated. They come to your class because they really, really, really want to learn from you. They want to really improve on their English language proficiency. It's about 20%. The rest, the 80%, they're not. Yeah. You can try, you can ask your students. You're lucky if 50% of your students are interested in your lesson. Yeah. Later, ask me why your students are not interested. Now, the last question is something that we need to be willing to address. Motivation, is it a student problem or is it a teacher problem? Please answer my question.
Both.
Human problem.
Yes, I think
I think it's
I
the
know.
parents.
Most
Teachers and
teachers' problem.
I know you want to share the blame,
It's fine, both.
Both, okay, both, okay.
it's a teacher problem
I think so. It's a teacher problem, yes.
because
So-
you're in charge of the class. You're the adult in the class, so
I
you're in
like
charge
that.
of.
Yes, you are in charge and you can make a big difference in the classroom in terms of raising the students' of motivation and also in terms of sustaining your students' motivation. Remember, 80% are not interested. You can ask your students. Well, of course, if you ask them, directly in class, they will not tell you. They will say, "Oh, teacher, you are the best teacher I've ever had in my life. Your lesson is super interesting." No, they won't tell you exactly. Yeah. Hey, Bu Hasti dari Sarjana Wiyata is here. Good to see you, Bu. This is again from the same person. This is again, the quote from the same person, from Zoltan Donye. Just read this very carefully, and you'll understand why he is saying what he is saying. Ibu Putri, can you please read this for everyone? Like, read it slowly and use your most beautiful voice.
The best motivational intervention is simply to improve the quality of our teaching.
Yes, can you translate that using easy language? What is it saying actually?
We just have to improve the quality of our teaching.
Yes, for what?
Um,
For what?
To motivate the students.
Exactly. Yes.
yeah.
Yes. So essentially what he's saying is that if you want your students to enjoy your lesson, if you want your students to learn a lot more from your lesson, if you want your students to feel excited to be in your lesson, interested, motivated, thrilled, excited, and all that, then it's you. You can make it happen. But you have to make sure that your teaching is of high quality. You have to make sure that your teaching is one that the students can relate to, one that the students really feel excited about, one that will make your students say, teacher, I like your lesson very much, and I want to come again to your lesson tomorrow morning. That is the biggest sources of motivation that can happen in the classroom. It's you, yeah? So please stop blaming your students. Don't say, it's half-half. It's my student's fault and also my fault. No, please be willing to say that 80-90% of the time is our fault. We're not doing a good job. Yeah, and that is what professional development is all about. And that is what lifelong, learning is all about. Yeah, you keep learning, you keep knowing, understanding your students, you keep improving on your knowledge and your skills, so that you can become a better teacher and a likable teacher as well in the classroom. Now, this is 2 free books that you can download later. I'll show you the website for this, completely free. Yeah, you don't need to pay anything. Yeah, but wait, later I'll give you the link. Yeah. So far we have had we have discussed. Yeah, the first F is again. What is the first F again? Before you forget.
Fluency.
Very good. Yes.
Fluency.
And then L stands for.
Lexis.
Lexis. Very good. A.
Amount
Intensity.
And intensity of instruction. And then M.
Motivation.
Okay, 4 more to go. Yeah. Please stay with me. Don't go away. And stay connected with me. The next one is input. Yeah. In stands for input. Input is very simple to understand. Input is what you see. Input is what you hear. That is input. So in the language classroom, in the English language teaching situation, what do students see? Text, yeah, reading materials, novels, stories, things that they see using their eyes. So this is input. The other one is listening, hearing. So what the students hear from you, from video materials that you use, from audio podcasts that you make available in the classroom. Input. Yeah. What's the big deal about input? This is one of the most important quote that you have to really see and understand. Throughout the learning process of a second language, students are building, constructing a new language system. And that new language system is what eventually enables your students to make use of that language for a variety of communicative purposes, for speaking, for reading, for writing, and so on and so forth. Are you with me on that? Yeah. So essentially, in your head, you have 2 systems eventually. Your first language here and your second language here. Yeah. Whether they overlap, we don't know. Maybe I think they overlap in some way. But initially, at the initial stage of language learning, you have a lot of knowledge about your first language, nothing much in the second language. Now, input is one of the most important sources of language development. So you start from 0 and you start building, you start accumulating bits and pieces about the language, and then eventually you're able to build this new linguistic system in your head, the kind of linguistic system that will allow you to use the language for whatever purposes. So what does this say about input here? About this linguistic system? This linguistic system is complex. Complex doesn't mean difficult, tidak. Complex means that it's difficult to describe. Very complex. Nobody has been able to describe completely, comprehensively the linguistic system that you have in your head. Nobody. Well, there are some linguists out there. They try, but what they have been able to describe is just a very, very tiny, a small part, maybe 20%, maybe 30%, but not its entirety. So it's complex. Number 2, which is very important, is this, that this system is implicit, tidak explicit. This system is implicit. Implicit means you have it. You know that you can make use of that system for communication. but you may not be able to explain it. You may not be able to describe why using the present tense. You may not be able to describe why using the past tense in this context or situation. That knowledge is implicit. And these two, complex and implicit knowledge, how does it develop? It develops because of what you hear on a daily basis and what you see on a daily basis. Yeah, the language samples that you see through your eyes and the language samples that you hear on a daily basis, every day, over a period of time. And that is called input. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, it's a bit complicated, but actually the idea is very, very simple. Students need a lot of input in order to develop this new linguistic system in their head. Now, what does people say or research says about input? I've highlighted the big word there. Input is a necessary condition for language learning, for language acquisition. It's a great acquisition enabler. So what I'm saying here in a very simple language is this: if the students get a lot of input, useful, meaningful, interesting input, I think they will learn a lot more. If they get a small amount of input, they will also learn a little. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Now reflect on this. In your teaching, for example, do you provide students with a lot of opportunities to read and to hear the language? If the answer is yes, I think chances are higher that your students are beginning to develop a very strong second language linguistic system in their head. Mungkin, maybe you need some evidence. Now, here are some examples of students and teachers from different parts of the world who have developed a very, very high level of English language proficiency, English language competence, because they have been exposed to, they have been able to see a lot of language through reading and through listening over a period of time. The first one here is, she was a teenager back then from Korea. And she spoke English so well. Korea is a bit like Indonesia. Yeah, English is not used on a daily basis. In the community, you don't get to use English on the street. Now, this girl, read more than 1,000 books. And because of that, and partly because of that, her English language proficiency was so good that every time she took part in a competition, English-speaking competition, she won first prize. Yeah. Maybe you're thinking, well, people from Korea are very talented. Look at all the Korean drama. They're all beautiful, very smart. And no, I don't think that is the reason for that. Yeah. Now, here is another example. Ajahn Siripon, this lady is from Thailand. Yeah, she's from Thailand. When I met her, she was doing her postgraduate studies at Thammasat University. Bright, young girl. And when she spoke, I was like, wow, the English was so good. And what did she do? And I asked her, that's what she did. She listening a lot of Disney cartoons. Not one, not two, but maybe 100 over 1 year, 2 years, and all that. Her IELTS score is 8.5. So it's very, very high proficiency. Now, here's another example. This one is from Vietnam. Same thing. He enjoyed doing a lot of reading. So reading is a great source of language development, a great source of language input. Again, his English speaking ability was very high. I know the boy, I know the parents. The parents don't speak English to him, but he picked up a lot of English, on his own. Again, IELTS is 7.5. And this is somebody from Indonesia, Ibu, what's the name, Ibu, yeah? What's the name of this? Ibu Laksmita. I think she is going to be very upset if I don't remember her name. Ibu Mita from Sanata Dharma University. And here's another one from Malang, Universitas Negeri Malang. Again, these two ladies also spent a lot of time during their student years watching a lot of movies, interesting movies, the kind of movies that got them, hooked until for them to spend the whole nights at home watching those movies. Yeah, so this is just examples of the importance of input in language learning. And input enables you and your students to develop this implicit knowledge that will eventually allow them to make use of what they have learned in real situations for speaking, for reading, and for writing purposes. Again, free books for you. I will share with you the links later on, yeah? So today I'm in a very happy mood. I'm giving away a lot of free gifts for you. Don't thank me, but thank Ibu
you,
Ek.
Pak.
Yeah, please thank Ibu Eka Wahyuningsih from Jember University.
Thank you.
Next one. I hope you're not tired, yeah? Are you still okay? We have 3 more to go.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Very good.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, of course.
Yes, I'm
Okay, but
okay.
let's try to remember the first 5 letters of the word flamingos together. The first one is
Fluency.
yes.
Fluency.
Fluency.
L is for
Alexis.
Lexus.
Yes.
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 A is for amount and
for
intensity.
amount and
Intensity of
M is for
inspiration.
Motivation.
motivation.
And motivation.
The last one,
I input.
yes, very good. Yes, Bu Eka, please give everyone their certificate later. Don't forget. Very good. Yeah, G is for grammar. Yeah. Remember I said early on, is grammar important? The answer is yes, grammar is important. Is vocabulary important? Yes, vocabulary is important. Between the two, vocabulary is more important. So what am I doing now? Sharing with you, principles about the teaching of grammar. Let me tell you why. Yeah, grammar has an important place. You have to teach grammar. As a language teacher, you have no choice. You have to teach grammar. The question is this. Yeah, please fill in the blank. Choose one. Is itu pilihan A. Choice A is, choice B is not. Which one?
It's not.
It's not.
Please say it together. 3, 2, 1.
It's not.
I like that.
not.
Yes. Yes, I'm dealing with some of best teachers here in the audience. It's not. Yeah, that's not the question. This is the question. This is the issue. This guy is very good. He spent his whole, career actually talking, teaching, and writing about grammar. Name is Michael Swan, and he's written books about grammar, and that's the only book that he can write about grammar. But even then, this is his advice. Should we be teaching? Should we be teaching grammar? The answer is yes, we should. We must. Should we teach all grammar rules? The answer is no. Yeah, Bapak Ibu sekalian, teachers, please take note of this. You have to teach all the grammar rules. The answer is no. His advice, and also my advice, is teach the most useful ones. Teach the most useful ones. What about the rest? What about the rest? Remember autonomous learning? Remember Pak Budi shared with you autonomous learning? The rest students can pick up, can learn on their own. They can. Yeah, once they have had sufficient level of proficiency, then they can learn, they can pick up new grammatical rules on their own through reading, through listening, through interactions, through different ways of learning. You don't have to be the only person in the world to be teaching your students, hey students, this is a subjunctive clause, for example. No, I think that is something that the students can pick up on their own at a later stage of their learning. Now, here are some examples of useful grammar, which I would call core, essential grammar. How to use simple sentences. Yeah, how to use verbs in the English language, how to ask questions, how to say no, how to say thank you, how to greet people. how to express your feelings using very simple, basic grammatical features. You don't need something that is very complicated. Yeah. This guy on the left-hand side, I think you know who this person is, has questions for you. If you have been teaching English for a while, then you know these grammatical constructions, not only, but also. Is that important for you to teach? Please tell me. Not only, but also. Had I met you earlier, I would. Little did I know that it is imperative that every teacher be given a higher salary or something like that. Do you need to teach this?
No.
Please tell me.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes, no. Okay.
No, it can be learned.
Yes. Now
No.
Not necessarily.
Here's
There are
my
other
response.
ways to say them.
Yes, I like that. Yes, there are other ways to say that. Yeah. Here is my position. If you are preparing for examinations, yes, you should, because these are questions that appear on the examination. But if you're not too concerned about examinations, but if your focus is on developing your students' competence, ability to use English, then this should not be given too much attention. You can teach this, but very briefly. Just tell them this is what it means. That's all. So teaching for comprehension rather than teaching action. The students do not need to be able to speak using these sentences. So somebody who mentioned early on that you can always say this in different ways. I think that is what we need to be teaching our students. Yeah. For example, not only, but also, you can simply say, hey, I like this, and I like that too, and same meaning. Yeah. I like you, and I like your students too. Easy. So you don't have to say, not only do I like you, but I also like your students. I mean, that's just too much. Yeah. I hope you're with me on this. Yeah. Grammar is important, but I think don't bet your life on teaching, all these grammatical rules that are very, very rarely used in social communication. I think that's another important point. Yeah. These grammar rules, they're there, but they are not very often used by people. If I were to ask you, when was the last time you used this grammatical construction in your speech or in your speaking? The answer is not even last year, not even the year before, not even the past 5 years. Yeah, if that is the case, then why should we spend too much time wasting a lot of teaching time, on something that is not particularly useful for our students? Yeah. So go easy on this. Go easy means if you feel the urge that you have to explain it, do it, but very quickly. Maybe not even 1 minute. Yeah. Don't spend the whole day teaching this. Okay, I think we are almost there. The next one is very easy. O stands for output. Output means speaking. Output means writing, basically. Yeah. So the key word to remember is, yes, having given students a lot of opportunities to learn the vocabulary, to strengthen their grammatical knowledge through listening and through reading. I think we also need to provide opportunities, time for our students to make use, to speak more in the classroom. And again, project-based learning, or PBI or PBL, is an excellent way for you to provide students with that opportunity. The reason being, that in the classroom, very often, the person who speaks the most, who talks the most is, please complete my sentence. Who is the person who talks a lot in the classroom? The teacher, yes. And the student,
The teacher.
yes, the teacher. Teachers are very fond of talking. And many teachers feel that if
It's passive learning.
many teachers feel that if I don't speak, I'm not teaching. That's not true, actually, because teaching can be done in many different ways. And very often, if you speak less, actually, if you teach less, I think your students may just be able to learn more. Again, I would refer to Pak Budi's PBL. Yeah. So output is providing students with a lot of more opportunities for them to make use of what they have learned in your grammar lesson, in your vocabulary lesson, in your reading lesson for speaking purposes. I think that's very straightforward, yeah? Now this one is a little bit, there's a lot of information here, but let's just focus on some of the most important thing here that I have on my slides, yeah? Output is important. Speaking and writing is important because it provides students with opportunities to process the language from a syntactic point of view. I think that's one of the most important keyword. And number two, when the students speak, they have an opportunity to understand if their speech is comprehensible, if the person they are speaking to can follow, your arguments. Yeah, if the students are talking to the teachers, for example, the expression from the teacher's face tell the students that, hey, you are making some problem here. Can you say that again? So opportunity for feedback is what speaking is for. Yeah, allowing students to check, to monitor their own language when they try to make use of whatever that they have learned through speaking, through interaction, and also through writing. So it's opportunity for feedback. Yeah. And then, of course, the last one is that in some places, I don't know about Indonesia, I think students are usually not interested, but in some places, the opportunity to speak actually gives students motivation. That's what I learned English for. Now I can make use of it in the classroom. Yeah, and the more you speak, the more frequent you speak, the more fluent you become. So this also has that purpose. Yeah. But you can't just focus on output, output, output. You can't. Because output happens, the ability to speak and write happens if and only if the students have sufficient enough language input. Remember that. Yeah. Now, input is comprehension. Input is semantic processing. Yeah, the students need to do a lot of processing for comprehension so that eventually, gradually, they'll be able to pick up a lot of language features from the input and then make use of this in their speech and writing. But input must happen frequently. Input happen on a daily basis. Reading and listening must happen on a daily basis so that the students get an opportunity to see again, to read again, to hear again what they have just learned in the classroom or in some other situations. So it strengthens their learning and it helps them to consolidate their understanding of how English language works in different situations. Yeah. So in brief, this is what it looks like. If you are from China, then you understand that there has to be a balance. Like in any other areas in life, there has to be a balance between A and B, between 1 and 2, between black and white, between man and woman. There has to be a balance there. And that is captured in this symbol. Yeah. So you need a good balance between input and output. I think there are some people here in the audience from China. If you could help explain what this yin and yang symbol means, that would be helpful. Anyone from China in the audience? From Hong Kong? From Korea? No. Okay, later. Okay, let me skip that. This is another important idea that we need to pay attention to. The standard. What kind of standard are we looking for when the students speak, when the students write? I think today the big theme is, using standards that are appreciated by global users of English, not just native English speaking standards, but the standards that are appreciated, that are accepted by a wider English language using community in the world. So people who speak English in Japan, people who speak English from other places, Singapore, the Philippines, and Thailand, and many other places. There are two considerations today. So we should not be too hung up on native speaker accent, on native speaker pronunciation, on native speaker standard. We don't have to. Today, the main consideration is number one, whether or not your speech, your language is comprehensible, whether when you speak, people understand you. I think that is one major, criterion. And this criterion is applicable, not just for you, but also for anyone, including native English-speaking people. Native English-speaking people are very often not easy to understand. Yeah, and that is not your fault. It's their problem. I think they have to fix that problem. When they speak to us, you will have to insist that, hey, you are from the US, you are speaking to me in English, but you are speaking the kind of English that I don't understand. I'm sorry, I don't want to speak to you. That's what you have to say. Yeah. So it's communication is two ways, isn't it? Yeah, when you talk to somebody, it has to be a two-way street. Yeah, you say something that I understand, I say something that you understand. Communication happens in that way. So it should not just be a one-way street. So that is one major consideration, is intelligibility. It applies to everyone. Second one is this. Yeah, acceptability. So comprehensibility alone is not enough. The second is a social consideration, acceptability. Now, this depends very much on what you are learning English for. If you are learning English to become an English teacher, then the expectation is that your proficiency, your speech will have to be up to a certain standard, the kind of standard that is valued by the English teaching professional community. Yeah, if you are a tourist guide, for example, let me say this slowly. If you are a tourist guide, your speech will have to be comprehensible, easy to understand. But number two, you don't have to have that higher level of English proficiency. You don't have to. If you want to, you can, but you are not required. But as an English teacher, I think we are required to have that level of proficiency. So there are two, again, major criterion. Number one is intelligibility, and number two is acceptability. I hope that makes sense, yeah? So do not try, because you'll be wasting a lot of resources, do not try to imitate native speakers of English. I don't think that is important these days. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last point that I want to share with you. So 8 altogether. Now this is the last one, flamingos S, the last S in flamingos. This is known as set phrases, very much related to our discussion earlier on about vocabulary. Let me just tell you what set phrases is all about. Well, set phrases basically is about how words are often used in combination with other words. And this word combination are the kind of phrases, the kind of clauses, the kind of expressions that we hear that we use regularly. So they are called set expressions, or they are often called lexical chunks. They're often called lexical bundles as well. And let me share with you why these set phrases, lexical bundles, are so important in language development. But first, let me share with you somebody from China, high school students. Yeah, high school students who are very, very good in developing their English language proficiency. These are highly proficient high school students, and they are winners of national English language competition. In China, we're talking about millions and millions of people, yeah? So you are competing against millions of other students. So if you win the competition, then you must be very, very good. Your English must be very, very, very high. Yeah. What do we learn from these people? Number one, they spend hours doing a lot of practice. Remember what I said earlier on, practice makes perfect? No, it's perfect practice that makes perfect. And let me exemplify what perfect practice means. There you go. That is perfect practice. They listen to the same materials again and again and again and again. This is what they say. Yeah. Ibu Santi, can you please read this? This is based on a research article, and the researcher actually interviewed a number of very highly successful learners of English, all high school students. They're very, very good. Ibu Santi, please read this.
I was so slow in the beginning, I had to listen to it many more times.
Yes. So these are what these high school students were saying when they were interviewed. At first, I was slow, but I have to listen to it many more times so that I become, Pusanti, so that I become
Perfect.
F.
Fluent.
So that I fluent, exactly. That's the word I'm
I
looking
see.
for. Yes, very strange, isn't it? Fluent in listening. We don't usually talk about fluency in listening. We talk about speaking fluency. But listening fluently is a fundamental, is a foundation of language learning. Bu Santi, please continue.
I gradually developed some feel for the language.
Yes, I developed some feel for the language. What is feel of the language? Bu Santi, if you remember one word that I shared with you early on, then I am the happiest person in the world.
Ah, yes. Do I get
Implicit,
the certificate?
that's the word. Yes, you don't get the certificate.
Oh,
Feel, feel here means intuition. I know it, I can feel it. Yeah,
right.
but I can't tell you what it is. It's intuition, it's intuitive knowledge, it's implicit knowledge of the language. Yeah, Pusanti, remember the word feel, implicit, intuitive. Next,
Okay. Thank you.
I feel that I just have countless patterns sort of swimming around in my head. Patterns, not individual words, not grammar, but patterns. Now, these patterns keep occurring again and again and again, and these patterns then stick in my head.
All those patterns sort of swimming around in my head.
Yes, these patterns sort of swimming around in my head. Lines, again, lines here refers to patterns, yeah? Yeah, patterns of words and sentences from movies often naturally just pop up just like that. So the question for us is this: what does pattern? Vocabulary, grammar, or both? Pilih satu. Choose one. Say it together.
Grammar.
Both.
Three.
Yes, it's both. Yeah,
Both.
vocabulary
I
and
think both.
grammar. Yes, now this,
Combination of words.
yes, these patterns, Bapak Ibu sekalian, ladies and gentlemen, these patterns are known as set expressions.
Yeah.
These patterns are known as bundles. They come together. The words are there, the grammar is also there together, not separated. Yeah. So these are known as lexical chunks, lexical bundles, fixed expressions, formulaic speech, and all the other, terminology that you may have seen in your reading of the. Here are some examples of these bundles. Make do with it. Jadi satu. They come together to make do with it. Make it up to you. I'll make it up to you. Please don't make fun of me. Make fun of me. Jadi satu kok itu. It's together. It's one bundle, one fixed expression. Yeah. The good news made my day. One expression together made my day. It's not like, oh, made is a past tense. And then my day is a noun. No, it doesn't work like that. It's made my day is one unit. And when you see this frequently in your listening and in your reading, then you sort of, hey, this word stick in my head. And when the opportunity arises for me to use this, then it just like that, comes out just like that. You don't have to analyze it. You don't have to think about it. It's just like that. Yeah, I hope you're with me. Make up your mind. One word, one phrase, one expressions. And there's a lot more here. This one is on me. Yeah, Ibu Santi, next time I see you in Jember, we go to a restaurant and you have to say this, but really this dinner is on me. That means you pay for the dinner. Yeah. It comes together just like that. Thanks for coming. I don't believe a word of it. I don't get the point. You look great today. And there are many, many, many others like that. Yeah, research again tells us, and experience also tells us, that there are thousands and thousands of these lexical bundles. And competent speakers, good users of English, people like you and me, we have hundreds, thousands of this in our head. And these expressions are what enable us to speak quickly, to speak fluently, to speak spontaneously, and as well as in writing. So there you go, Bapak Ibu sekalian, the flamingos. I think we are going to say this again. This is the last slide. F is for
Fluency.
yes.
Fluency.
L is for
Lexis.
yes. A is for
Amount
and
intensity of
Instruction.
yes. M is for
motivation.
motivation,
in is for input.
Input.
G is for grammar.
Grammar.
And
grammar,
O is for output.
output,
And
phrases.
phrase.
Good. Bu Ika, I think you can be very, very happy when you give out the certificate to the audience today. And this is my website. Please just remember my name. It's basically myname.com, yeah? And you'll be able to download many of the resources there. I also have a YouTube channel. Feel free to, watch whatever resources I have on my YouTube channel. But don't forget to like it and to subscribe it.
Already, Pak.
Already
I
done.
will.
So again, the website is just myname.com. Yeah,
Thank you very much, Pak Willy.
Thank you so much. Back to you, Ibu Santi.
Yes, thank you very much. It's very, very interesting. The audience are very excited to listen to your explanations, especially about the 8 principles of flamingos. Now it's time for you, the audience, to have the question and answer sessions. There are some questions I have kept with me.
Yeah, direct
The
question,
first
please.
one,